Everyone, it's Matt here. So in this video, we're going to be walking through BitMex, the exchange where you can use up to 100 times leverage. But yeah, so we'll work out the differences between it and some of the other exchanges. But we'll start off with securing your account, then work through some of the key order types. Calculating the trade and then placing the trade. And we'll go through a couple of scenarios. To start off though, we'll look at securing your account and mainly two-factor authentication. Well, on most of the other exchanges, you can also do whitelisting of your withdrawal addresses. So fixing which address that you're able to withdraw your funds to. BitMex doesn't offer that, so we'll skip over that one and just cover two-factor. So here we are, I'm on their testnet, and yeah, there's quite a lot going on their trading screen here. So, but first off, the most important thing is to secure your account. So when you first get registered, then you can go into account and security and go down to security here, and you can have two-factor authentication. So they have YubiKey or Google Authenticator. Most people tend to use Google Authenticator. And so Google Authenticator, you need an app. You can get an app for your smartphone. Authy or the Google Authenticator app are a couple of examples. So this is Authy. I think it's available for iOS and Android. And another one I like to use is a free open source one called Free OTP. So when you install that, go and add a key into that app, and it'll use your camera, and you just point the camera at this QR code, this barcode here, and it will register in the app, and then it will start generating 6-digit numbers, one-time passwords that only survive for about 30 seconds to a minute. So once you've done that, then you can go and enter one of these numbers in. Now, it's important that this barcode is not shown to anybody or given to anybody, and don't keep it on your computer, that type of thing. A good way to secure it and keep a copy of it is to print it out, then remove all digital copies and just put it in a safe or something like that, so that it's not hackable, it's not online. So once you've taken a picture of that with the app and it starts giving you numbers, then you can just put the number into here that's coming up on the app, click submit, and then you've enabled. Now it'll kick you out, so you'll need to log in again, and it may need you to wait. Yes, it will ask you to wait until a new number comes up. There we go. So now we're back in. Okay, so we've secured our account, got a nice strong password. We've got a two-factor authentication enabled. Now we can get in and have a look at the trading interface. Now, it's very cluttered. I tend to get rid of this stuff. The depth chart, don't need that. Open positions, okay, we can get rid of this one down here. Just move these around and then bring the chart. Open this up, so something like that. And you've got the chart front and center. Nice big chart that you can work with. You can see your active orders, order history, margin status down the bottom here, and then your open and close positions. So pretty much everything you need here. And if you need the those other things back up, you can just come up into the top here and enable them again, and it'll bring it back up. All right, so now we'll run through the various types of orders on BitMex. So they have different types of limit and market orders, stop market and stop limit. So if we jump onto the exchange, on the left hand side here, you can see the order placement area, and they have different tabs along the top. So we've got limit, market and stop market, but this last one has a drop down box and you can change it to trailing stop, take profit limit, take profit market, different things like that. So with a limit order, basic limit order, we're looking at, and we can do a limit buy or a limit sell, because BitMex is purely a margin trading platform, and you trade futures contracts. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky with BitMex. The two easiest contracts to trade are Bitcoin and Ethereum, because they have a perpetual contract, which means it never expires. On the Bitcoin contract, you can trade up to 100 times leverage, and on the Ethereum one, you can do 50 times. And then they have these other various different contract types that you can look at as well. And they're all a little bit different. So I'll do some a couple of different examples to show where further down the track, to show the differences between them and how we use the spreadsheet calculator to help with that. But you really need to do your homework a bit with BitMex to make sure you understand the mechanics of the contract that you're trading. The easiest one is Bitcoin. So it's Bitcoin against the US dollar. The quantity is the value of your position. So how much US dollars worth of Bitcoin are you going to trade or place in this trade? So rather than having a quantity, so how many Bitcoin, you just say I want $1,000 or $100 worth of Bitcoin. So it's a little bit different, and each one of these does that slightly differently. So that's something you have to watch out for on BitMex. So let's have a look at this limit order. So I'm doing $100 worth of Bitcoin, and I'm going to buy it when it gets down to this 9,750 level down here. Currently we're trading up at 10,100, and I want to buy when I place a limit order. So buy when the price gets down to that level. So I can hit, first I'll choose my leverage. So currently I'm looking at 10 times leverage, and I'll show you the difference if we choose different values. So I've got an available balance of 0065 in this test account, and the cost is going to be 001 of Bitcoin. So it's within the size of my balance on the exchange. So the actual order value is 0.102 Bitcoin. The cost to me because I'm using 10 times leverage is 0.001. And my available balance is 0065. The position when executed is $100 worth, and the current price is this. Now here is something to pay attention to, is the liquidation price. So if I purchase at 9,750 and I don't have a stop in front of this, once I get to this price, this 8,906, I will get liquidated. So my account will get wiped out, and it'll close the position and use whatever's in my account as collateral. So always read through and make sure you understand. And when you're placing stops, make sure the stop is in front of your liquidation price by a good percentage. So if I and I'll show you what happens if I crank up the leverage. So I'll cancel that and I'll go instead to 100 times and do the same order. So now the order value is the same. The cost to me is much less because I'm using 100 times the leverage. So it's within my balance, but so it's essentially the same trade, but my leverage has gone up. So the overall cost will be less, but look at my liquidation price. So I'm purchasing at 9,750, but my liquidation price is only 9,704. So price does not have to move very far at all in order to liquidate me. So this is what you have to be very careful of on BitMex, is always understand where your liquidation price is and where your stop needs to be. And make sure your stop is well in front of your liquidation price. And if it isn't, then you need to go back and dial down the leverage. So dial down the leverage and then work out, what your liquidation price is and make sure your stop is in front of that. So let's go ahead and put this trade on. So now the trade's on. You can see it's marked it on the chart. I have this buy here at 9,750. I've got my order showing up down the bottom here. So these are the nice things about BitMex as an exchange, is it puts up that form, gives you all the information you need if you read it to make sure that you're placing the correct order for what you're trying to do. Okay, so I've got a buy order on now. They have market orders. Again, a market order would just buy or sell at the market price. So there's no there's no price in that. It's just whatever the market price is. As soon as you hit the button, you're in the market. Same, the quantity is your position size. So then we have a stop market. So if I'm buying, say I'm using this for a booster or a cradle long, something like that, and I want to put a stop below here. So for that, I would use a stop market. And let's say I want my stop at 9,250. So the quantity is the same. Make sure your leverage is the same as what your initial order was. And here we can use a close on trigger. So close on trigger it's the same as reduce only on BitMex. It says that if you have this enabled, then that order can only reduce your position. It will not enter you into an opposite position. So it only wants to close you out. So here, and they gray out, and this is really nice on BitMex as well. Once you set the correct settings in the order boxes, it'll tell you what you can't put a buy stop here because it doesn't make sense for what you're trying to do. So I can put a sell stop. Again, it's telling me I'm going to sell this at this price. It tells me what the order value is. It tells me what my liquidation price is, but it doesn't really make sense in this instance because this is just a stop order to back up my other order. So I can go ahead and sell. And down here also it's telling you that you're using close on trigger. So we go and place that stop, and then we can see the stop is down here below our entry. All right, so we've got an entry, we've got a stop. Let's place a profit. So they have separate profit orders. You have take profit market, which will, as soon as it's triggered, you still have a trigger price. So as soon as that's triggered, then it'll put a market order on the exchange. or you have a take profit limit where you set the limit price and the trigger price. So if I put the trigger price, let's say our take profit will be 10,500, 10,500, and my limit, I'll just make it the same, 10,500. Then I can put my take profit sell, and again I can use close on trigger. This means that if I didn't get entered into my trade down here, just pretend this was a booster trade where price is above your entry, and I put my limit order in. I'm waiting for price to come down, but I want to put my take profit limit above ahead of time. I can use this close on trigger and go ahead, place that on, and it's sitting up there. If price doesn't come down and enter me in, it goes up and triggers that, then this order will just cancel, nothing will happen. So I won't get entered into a position. So these are the nice features, different elements of these orders. So now let's get rid of these. So I'll just hit the X's and cancel all these orders, get them off the exchange. Let's do a stop limit. So let's pretend we're working on a cradle, and I'll say the top of the candle is just 10,500 just to make it easy. So we're using a stop limit, but we're using it as an entry order. So the limit price would come from our trade calculator, and our stop price would be 10,500. So this may be 10,510, something like that. And we're using this as an entry order, so we can't have close on trigger on. You have to disable this, because if you use close on trigger, you're never going to get entered into the trade. So we'll just disable that, and we can put that on. And here we go. We've got a stop limit sitting above. So when price comes up, it'll trigger it at the trigger price, at the stop price, and then it'll place a limit order. So we'll get filled at 10,510 or below. We won't get filled above that. So we're limiting our risk of our entry. Now, because close on trigger is very useful to limit your risk, whenever I use stop limit as an entry on BitMex and I have to take this off, I always put it back on straight afterwards, because I really don't want to forget it when I need it, of using it for a stop or a take profit. There we go. So that's the different order types. Now we'll move on to the next part. Okay, in this next section, we're going to go through defining the trade from the chart, and then using the spreadsheet calculator to calculate your target and quantity based on the trade. So here we are, we have our trading view chart up, and we have our calculator over on the side. The calculator is set up with our account size, 10,000 US with 1%, so we're risking $100. We're using margin, so we don't need to worry about our exchange position limit. Our acceptable slippage for our stop limit entry orders is 0.2%, and we're scaling out 50% when we hit our first target. Now I've got this at 0.1 for BitMex to calculate fees, and put fees into the calculation for our targets. And for this example, we're using Bitcoin, and it's on the US dollar perpetuals inverse swap contract. So this is a BitMex instrument, and we're looking at a booster here. So I'll put my fibs on the chart. So going from the last high low up to the current high, and then again for the next one. And so we've got our confluence of prices here, of levels here, and it also lines up nicely with the 9,000 level. So it's a really nice booster. Now we can put our entry, I just place it on the chart just above that level. So 9,038 roundabouts, and the stop goes 2 fib levels below, down at this higher low. Now target will be up here somewhere, but we need to calculate that. So I'll just put labels on these. Fib stop, fib entry, and fib target. Okay. So now we need to enter these values into our calculator. So the first entry level that we've got on here is 9,038.5. And our stop down here is 8769. And this is margin. So it's a booster long margin on BitMex. So we can see our worst target here is 9,380, which is pretty much spot on where I put it. How about that? And our quantity is 0.33. But as we talked about in the last example, in the last section, sorry, on BitMex, we're not using the quantity of Bitcoin, we're using the position size. So that's where you use this value here. So our entry value for BitMex would actually be 2,968.25. Okay, so now we can bring this over into the staging area, and we have our numbers up, ready to go to take over to the exchange. So now we'll get into our examples and work through them in more detail on the exchange. So now we're going to walk through our trade examples. And our 3 examples are a cradle long, a breakout short, and a booster long. First, we'll start with the booster long. So we have a limit order for our entry, a stop order, which is a stop market, and we'll be using close on trigger flag for that. And then the target, which is the limit order, which is also, we can use a close on trigger there. So here I've got my chart from before, and I've got my trade calculator here, and the exchange order form over on the left. So starting off with our entry, so price is above our entry for a booster. We're waiting for price to come down to that entry and trigger us in. So we'll use a limit order for that. And so using the spreadsheet, our price for our entry is 9,038.5. So in the limit box, I put 9,038.5. Now our quantity is 0.33, but in BitMex, it wants the quantity in the US dollar terms. So then we can just come down here to our position size. So that quantity at that price equals this position size. And if I add in the fees, will be that. But so if we just add this in, so 9268.25. 9268 will be close enough. I think it doesn't allow quarters. I think you can do 0.5 maybe. No, it's just allowing whole numbers. So we'll go to the closest, which is 2968. And there's my dyslexia, 2968. Okay, so we got there in the end. So once we have our quantity at our price and we've checked them off, we don't need to do reduce only. This is an entry order. We need to choose our margin. So start off, at a minimal margin amount like 10. If you need to crank it up. You just have to be very careful of your liquidation price. So then we can hit buy, and this is telling me I can't do that because I don't have enough funds. Let me crank it up, confirm. Yeah, so this is just a test account with not much funds on. But so the cost is way more than what I've got in this test account at the moment. But I showed you the order forms previously. If I'll turn this down to a small amount to show it. There we go. So you'll get up the order form. You need to read through this and double check your liquidation price. Up here, so we're buying the right number of contracts at that price, and then you can hit buy and you're good to go. Alright, so then after your entry order, the next best thing to put on is the stop. So let's go over to stop market. If you don't see stop market, you may have to use the drop down here. And our stop price was, if we come here, we can use either of these, 8769. So there we go, 8769. Now we were buying for our entry, so we need to sell for our stop. And again, the quantity is going to be the same as what your entry quantity is. So it'll be 2968. Now, again, I don't have much in this account, so I'll dial this back down so I can hit the button. We need to make sure close on trigger is on with this. We hit stop, read through. You don't need to worry about the liquidation price for this because it'll hit our entry before it's going to hit our stop, and the stop will close us out of the trade. So the liquidation for this this part is not really warranted. Now, also make sure you're using the same leverage as you are for your entry order. Okay, so the last order you need to place is the target. So you really, if price is up around your target, you don't want to put your target on too soon. Maybe wait until you get entered in. So if price comes down, you get entered in, and now you're ready, or it's very close to your entry, then you can put your target on. We can protect ourselves with a close on trigger, but you'll be using a take profit limit. So the price up here for your target is 9,380. So that's the price of the target here. Then you have your trigger price, which is the same, 9,380. Just use the same price, it's all fine. Then for your quantity, now we want to scale out 50%. So a little trick on the spreadsheet, if you say you hit your target, then down here in the calculator, it's going to give you the position size of half the position. So it gives you the quantity there, which is half of this quantity, and that's your position size, which is half of that. So that's what you can use up in here for your target quantity, 1537, say. And then this isn't letting me, so we bought here and we're selling there. This isn't letting me, isn't highlighting sell, but that's just because we're looking at an old trade here, and where the price is at this current point in time in real life, it's not highlighting this for me to do that, but in a real situation this would be highlighted and you'll be able to hit the sell to place your order. And again, when you do it, have a look at the form that comes up, make sure everything's correct, and then execute the order. Okay, so let's move on to the next example. So our next example will be a breakout short on Litecoin. So our entry order is a stop limit, our stop order is a stop market with close on trigger, and our target order is a limit order with close on trigger. And we'll be going short on this one. So before I jump in with and squeeze everything up, I've just gone on to the Litecoin contract here, and you can see up here it has a date, September 27. So currently today it's the 27th of July. This contract expires on September 27. So you just need to keep that in mind when trading these other non-perpetual contracts, is that they do expire and your position can get closed out when the contracts expire. So I keep that in mind. Now on this contract, the quantity is actually in LTC, so it's back to our normal way of doing it, like we do on BitMex and other exchanges, where it's saying the quantity of tokens against whatever it is. So in this time it's against Bitcoin, so XBT is Bitcoin. So now I'll bring in the spreadsheet and the other chart, and we can work through the example. Okay, so here I have a breakout on the Binance Bitcoin contract. It's not the greatest breakout setup, but it's just an example. So I'll put the stop up here. You could potentially put it down here, but like I said, this isn't a perfect example, so I'm just going to place my put them in a general spot, and we'll use it and work through it. So my entry is on the break of this, so I need a stop limit. Where are we? Entry. My target will be down here, and my stop is up there. So let's start with putting this into the calculator. So because this is against Bitcoin, I need to go to a different tab on the calculator. So I'll go to the Bitcoin tab. And again, we look at our account setup, make sure everything's set up as we want. And I can do 0.1. And now I'll put in LTC BTC. Or you could use the contract name, which is LTC U19, so you know it's a BitMex trade. And then we're going breakout short. We're using margin. Now we've got two different precision levels here. That's because you may need quite a large precision on your price versus your quantity. So we'll put in the data and see how we go. So our entry position is 0.1051, so 0.01051. Okay, and then our stop is up there, 0.010685. So I can dial this back to maybe 6 decimal places, and there we go. Okay, so then we need to stage it. So bring it over, put it in the staging area, and we have our prices and our quantity, and we're ready to go. So let's put in the first the stop limit. So we're going to choose stop limit. Our stop price is the trigger price, which is the breakout level. So that is 0.010510. And then our limit price comes from the calculation. So we have that here. 0.010589. And then our quantity, nice and simply, comes from our quantity here, 45.69. Looks like it's only letting me do whole numbers. So if we can only do a whole number, what we can do here is update that, and everything gets updated as well. Okay, so now we are ready to go. We can because we're using a stop limit for our entry, we need to make sure close on trigger is not on. And in a real life situation, this would be highlighted, and you would be able to hit the set cell stop and go from there. Now, remember, you can adjust your margin to whatever margin level you like. And when you hit that button, the order form will come up, and you need to make sure that everything is good and your liquidation price is higher than your stop price here. So because we're selling for our entry, we'll be buying back here. So our liquidation price will actually be up here somewhere, and we want it a decent way behind our stop. Right, so that is our entry. Then we need to place our stop. So our stop will just be a stop market, and that can be for the full quantity, and the stop price is 0.010685, but this will actually be a buy. So we sold to get into the trade, and we're buying to get out. And you can put a close on trigger flag on this, and so I'll hit buy, and you get up your form. You need to make you don't need to worry about liquidation price because we're exiting out of the position and we've got our close on trigger. We just need to make sure that our quantity and our price is correct, and then you can go ahead and hit buy. Then finally our target. Now our target is here, 0.0112. Let me make sure this is in the right spot. So 010251. So it's a little bit further down. And this will be a take profit limit. So we can set the limit and the trigger price at the same. So because it's a take profit limit, it won't actually activate until the trigger price is hit. So our trigger is the same, 0.010251. And again for here, 0.010251. For our profit, we're going to scale out half. So it'll be 22. Again, this is going to be, you'll decide whether you adjust up or down. So this is not allowing decimal places. So it'll be just scaling out whole values. And if early on in the trade, if you haven't got entered into the trade and you've got a bit of time, you could work this out. So you could bump this up to 46, and then you're working with whole values, you know. So you can play around with it a little bit. It won't affect your risk very much, but it'll make it easier for your scaling out calculations and things like that. And this will be a sell. No, this will be a buy. So we sold to get in, and we'll buy to get it out. And again, in a real situation, this would be lit up, and you can hit your buy, and then you're good to go. So that's the three orders. You have the stop limit entry, the take profit limit for the target, and the stop market for the stop. Okay, so our last example is going to be a cradle long. So our entry order is a stop limit. Our stop order is a stop market, which we can use close on trigger on that. And the target order can be a limit order, and we can put close on trigger on that. Probably don't need it on this, but yeah, it will work even if you have that on. All right, let's get into it. So we're on the exchange. This one will be Ethereum. So I'll do the Ethereum perpetual contract. And so this is slightly different as well. So this one is saying contracts. So it doesn't have UST, it doesn't have, the amount of ETH or something like that. It's just saying contracts. And if you go in and have a look at the contract, it's a little bit cryptic in what it actually means. It just says each contract is worth 0.001 for Bitcoin or per $1 in price, blah, blah, blah. So it's not very clear to me. So I've worked this out in a different way, and I'll take you through that when we get in and put a trade on. So let's get into that. Okay, so here we have our cradle. So I've got my stop down here, my target here, so my entry here, and my target up here. So we'll have a stop limit as our entry. So once this candle closes, we'll be waiting for it to break that, and we'll have our limit in place to stop us getting limit our risk so we don't get a bad entry. And we have our stop down here. So we go into our sheet and choose cradle, long, margin. This is ETH USD. My initial entry is 294.56, so it's just 1 pip above this price there. And my stop is 291.64, so 1 pip below there. And then it tells us our target here, which is 299.84. Oh, I can adjust this up. 4, so a little bit higher. And now we're good to go. So I can bring this over. Oops. Load it into the staging area. And now we can look at how we can put this on the exchange. Okay, so our stop limit entry, we want 24 times 295. But if I put 24 contracts at 295, down here I have a cost. So I'm on 1 times leverage at the moment just to work out what my position size is going to be. So this cost is 0.007. So if I put that into Google to work out what that is in US dollars, it's 70 US dollars. But we're looking for 7,000 as a position size. So in order to get the true position size, I need to add another couple of zeros here. And then I've got a 0.7095. So 7095. There we go, 7,158, which is within the ballpark of my position size here. So this would have fees and a few different things, mixing it up a bit. So this is where, again, you've just got to be so careful with BitMex on understanding what you're actually trading, what the value is. BTC USD is the simplest, and these other ones are quite tricky. But the rest of it is just the same. So once you understand that you need to put 2 zeros in front of everything else, then we're good to go. So this is a stop limit entry. So our limit price is 295. Our stop price, the trigger price, is 294.5 is the closest I'm going to get it. And then this is a cradle long, so we're going to buy. So you'll be able to hit that, go through, make sure you're with whatever margin you're using. I think I had this on 1x margin, so you can crank it up to 10 and just check your liquidation price, things like that. So then for the stop, we go to the stop market and same quantity, and then we just look at our 0.65, there we go, and it'll be a sell stop, and we can put close on trigger on that. And then finally for the profit, we can do our take profit limit, where the trigger price is the 299.85, and the same for the limit price. And you can do your take profit sell because we're going long, so we bought at the entry, we're going to sell up here, and you could halve this to scale out 50% and do that. And again, you can have close on trigger, that won't affect your scaling out at your take profit. So there you go, there's 3 different examples using 3 different contract types on BitMex. It can get a bit confusing and tricky, so I hope I showed you a few ways that you can use between the spreadsheet and Google to get you on track and make sure you're using the right size positions. And yeah, okay, so that will finish the video there, and good luck with your trading. Cheers, bye.